It's Saturday, August 6th, 2022. At least I think it is. And welcome to Jackman Radio. And I'm here with my friend, truth seeker, researcher extraordinaire, brilliant mind, awesome guy, New Yorker, Adam Fitzgerald. Adam, how you doing tonight, my
Eric,
friend?
thank you very much for having me on, man. Thank you.
How you feeling tonight, Adam?
Very well. Even though we're both feeling the pressure of the heat, I'm in a very small, very well-contained air-conditioned room. I'm very content right now. So, uh, as opposed to the troubling issues, weather and geopolitically outside.
Yeah, well, couldn't have said it any better. Thank God we weren't in front of the White House with that lightning bolt. Did
Oh,
you
did
see?
you happen to see that?
I, I'm telling people that the Tampa Bay Lightning are going to have to fucking get rid of their name because it's going to be offensive to people who die in lightning strikes.
Yeah, two people were killed because of that.
I saw that, man.
Amazing.
Who do you have to be at the White House and be killed in a lightning strike?
I don't know.
That's when you're like, who do you got to be over in Pakistan to be killed in a drone strike? You know?
Yeah, right. Yeah, you have to be Ayman al-Zawahiri.
We didn't even talk about that pre-show, Adam. Jesus, I'm glad you mentioned that. But how many times has
Mm.
first of all, before we even crack that, like officially, who was or is Ayman al-Zawahiri, and how many times has he died?
Ayman al-Zawahiri, Zawahiri, that's his real name. Ayman al-Zawahiri was an Egyptian doctor. He's an actual physician, and he was the physician of Osama bin Laden, personal physician. He worked at Red Crescent Hospital in Pakistan, and he actually was one of the co-founders of an Egyptian radical group called Al Jihad, which was later renamed to Egyptian Islamic Jihad, and basically tried to overthrow the Egyptian governments of Sadat and Hosni Mubarak. He was arrested when Sadat was assassinated in 1980. He was brutally tortured, and there's this great book called Roads to Al Qaeda, written by an Egyptian lawyer who knew al-Zawahiri and was friends with him, Montasir al-Zayat. And it's a very fanatic. It's not many books survive right now. Like it's not many published,
Right.
but it's like a background issue of the life of Dr. Ayman al-Zawahiri. And when he was tortured, he actually gave up information to the Egyptian federal authorities, the SSI, about a very dear friend of him named Asim Isam al Kamari. And because he did that, he never got over it. And because he was an informant for the SSI, he was released after like I think
Hmm.
4 or 6 months, and he went to Pakistan, and that's when he ran into or met Osama bin Laden, who at that time was building ditches in an Arab camp in Afghanistan, the first Arab camp ever.
But under what pretext did he meet Bin Laden? Like jihad or like?
No, it was a chance meet. In fact, when he worked at Red Crescent Hospital in Pakistan, he knew about he started hearing about the name of Osama bin Laden,
Hmm.
who at that time was, you know, using his father's construction
He,
company,
he he was the son of Saudi scion construction scions who had millions or billions of dollars.
who worked on the refurbishing of Mecca and Medina.
Right. And Osama bin Laden, like there's pictures of him, man, like bell bottoms and kind of Western modern looking back in the day. I mean, am I mistaken about that?
No, you're not. In fact, that's funny because Osama bin Laden actually practiced judo, and there's a picture of him
Right.
sweating with a judo suit on.
Like Putin.
Right. He was a well, Putin. Putin. I like Putin because he's a murderer, but
They're
he
they're all murderers, Adam.
yeah, I know they're all killing. Who we kidding? Who we kidding?
But
Right. So he practices sambo, so he's well known practitioner.
Bin Laden was into that karate kind of stuff.
Yeah, believe it or not, at the age of 19, judo. He went to university and studied engineering, and he lost his father in a plane crash, as you well know. And what happened was he was very doting on his father. So he basically didn't have much in the way of direction. And lo and behold, as you know, to grab his attention, he went to a lecture by Abdullah Yusuf Azam, and he really was enamored by him. A year later, the Soviets invaded Afghanistan.
So this is 1979,
78, 79.
78, 79, and Bin Laden was born in what, the late 50s?
Let's say 56,
Right.
55, 56.
So he's from Saudi Arabia, from a very wealthy construction family, and that's something that's lost, I think, on everybody. I mean, if you don't pay attention to this stuff or understand it or have researched it, you just think, oh, these guys are goat herders from some cave, which couldn't be
Right.
the opposite of who Bin Laden was and the family he was from and the influence he was from. So back to al-Zawahiri, I'm probably mispronouncing it.
Now,
He's
Zawahiri.
Zawahiri. He's an Egyptian physician.
Yes.
And I'll tell you what, Adam, a couple months earlier, one or two, not that long ago, he flared up in some intelligence Indian reporting that he was giving praise to some Indian politician for wanting to wear a
Yes.
and it's funny, that day I texted John Kiriakou and I said, dude, all's way here, he's alive. Let's put a team together. The bounty on his head is 20 or 30 million.
Right.
And Kiriakou texts me back. He goes, I'm in.
Um,
And I said, where do you think he is? He said, probably Pakistan or Afghanistan.
Sure enough. He's in
was
Kabul
close.
City.
But so the bottom line here, Adam, is who just got killed? What has he been? I mean, what's your take on it? When you saw the headline, al-Zawahiri killed, what was your instant reaction?
I remember immediately saying, I don't think it matters. And I'll tell you why I think this way in the bigger picture. There's been stories that he was killed in 2015. I think
Right.
Esquire magazine in New York Times actually wrote a piece that he was poisoned or something like that. But he did make videos. But the bigger picture is this. It doesn't matter if he's physically dead or if he's physically alive. One thing is for certain, and the message is clear, is that when Zawahiri was killed by these two Hellfire missiles, allegedly, it sent a message saying that Al-Qaeda is finally finished. Because no matter what, the entire hierarchy of Al-Qaeda, the original hierarchy, from the emir to the military shura committee leader to the media leader to all the old hands, they're all either in prison at Guantanamo Bay or they're dead. Osama bin Laden, Dr. Ayman al-Zawahiri, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, Mustafa al-Hasnawi, Mohammed al-Morsi, Ramzi bin al-Shib, okay, Ammar al-Baluchi, Wali bin Attash. These were the financial leaders, the orchestrators of previous terrorist attacks, and they're all in prison or dead. And with Zawahiri, he was much more important. This is what gets me, is that when bin Laden was killed, you heard about this story for weeks because everybody put a face to him. He's responsible for 9/11.
It was Obama's re-election campaign.
But Zawahiri, in the more important context of radical fundamentalism, was much bigger than bin Laden, because it was through him and the Egyptians from the Egyptian Islamic Jihad that persuaded bin Laden to attack not Egypt's government, but also the U.S. and the West.
Yeah, and people forget Muhammad Atta is Egyptian.
Yeah, that's right.
The guy who flew, Flight 11 into the South Tower? No, North Tower.
North Tower.
North Tower, the first 8:46 a.m. on 9/11.
Yeah,
He's Egyptian.
yeah, it's amazing. Well, Egypt is actually the first state to have a Islamic Brotherhood. It's called the Muslim Brotherhood, created by Hassan al-Banna.
Well, the blind sheik too.
Well, he's part of a group called Gamma Islamiyah. That's another Egyptian radical sect.
Yeah, Egyptian. Yeah,
another Egyptian.
Yeah, and
a lot of these Al Qaeda like operators were Egyptian.
Yeah, that gets lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, because they served in the Egyptian military. The people who killed Sadat were members of Gamma Islamia and the Egyptian Islamic Jihad, but they weren't like Arabs, like dumb, illiterate people. These were
No.
educated men. These were
Right.
people who served in the military. The man who killed Sadat is Khalid Islambuli, and he was a lieutenant in the Egyptian army. And so when the Egyptian Islamic Jihad and Gamma Islamia met with these people, they were already devoted followers of people like Omar Abdul Rahman and Dr. Ahmed al Zawahiri.
Right.
And that just tells you the influence of these men and what they meant.
Yeah, the power and the sway they had over
Right.
these young dudes to get them to come from around the Muslim world. I mean, even going back into the late 70s, early 80s to go fight the Soviets
Right.
in Afghanistan, with CIA funding, Operation Cyclone, with Toyota trucks, with Stinger missiles, with Charlie Wilson's funneling of billions of dollars of U.S. taxpayers. Money.
The misconception about all this, and this is something that you've been experiencing yourself, is that people will want you to say that, oh, you know what, these are just dumb illiterates, they don't know any better, and stuff like that. And the U.S. creates these people. Well, no, not really. What the U.S. does is create the atmosphere, the vacuum,
Conditions
to exist. That's what they do. So in other words, if you already have somebody who's willing to do the dirty work, all you have to do is allow them the capabilities to do it. So in other words, like for 9/11, for example, if you knew that there were radical fundamentalists that were willing to attack the United States, and you have the security apparatus to prevent them from that, all you have to do is basically relax that security apparatus and allow them to conduct these attacks while the intelligence apparatuses monitor these people and make sure that the attacks are successful in order for the bigger picture to come to fruition. And that is foreign policy guidelines from the neoconservatives, Israel, and the Gulf. That's all.
Yeah, from your PNAT ghouls.
Exactly.
Leading the charge.
Oded Yinon plan,
The Yinon plan. Doctrine. Balkanize and fracture the Middle East.
That's right. But how do you do it? You need, and just like in the project, you mentioned the Project for New American Century. In that large document, there's a piece that says, we want to spend so and so in certain countries on certain jeeps and missiles and base stations or whatever, but they can't implement this in a timely fashion, save for an event like a new Pearl Harbor. Well, it just so happens a year later, 9/11 happens.
We got your Pearl Harbor for you.
Exactly. In other words, what I'm saying is the U.S. doesn't need to create this happening. They don't need to create make hijackers or fake phone calls. No, the hijackers really existed, but they knew about it. That's what I'm saying. So they're willing to do the dirty work, and they know that they're willing to do the dirty work and allow them to do it. And they took advantage of that. That's what they did. And that's the real conspiracy that nobody talks about.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the proof is in the pudding, man. When you read about the West Coast cell of Khalid Almidar and Nawaf al-Hazmi, I mean, they knew they were here in our country.
Yeah, look, even with the Boston Marathon bombing, the Zokar brothers, right? Well, what was FEMA running a drill on? Well, they were running a drill on terrorism the same day. The FBI, I mean, very few people reported on this. Boston Globe was one, and they actually said that the FBI knew about Sardev Dokazar, the younger brother. They knew about him from Chapman and whatnot.
Right.
Look, and it goes with mass shootings too. Like it just comes out later that ABC broke the story. Oh, the FBI knew about so and so or whatever. Look, foreknowledge of the event. That's intelligence. That's what the intelligence agencies are required.
That's why they exist.
Yeah, exactly. Facilitate these events, but they don't need to create the events because they already have somebody who's willing to do it for them.
Right,
and all they need to do is take advantage of it.
Right, and then manipulate that to their goals afterwards, like we saw with Iraq.
Yeah, exactly.
So
try to make that rational and reasonable.
try to fit it in there.
Yeah,
and that's one of the things. Oh, you think everything's an inside job? It's fake. It's false flag. It's like, no, it's not what I think. There's a lot of nuance, though, Adam, isn't there?
Yeah, for
To
people,
understanding the events.
right? I think no. This is a good point. Look, I think mostly this comes from my experience dealing with people generally online and in real life. Is that most people want a black and white world? They want an answer,
Hmm.
and even if the answer is not appealing to them, even if the answer is made in, the illusion of belief or whatever, as long as they have an answer, they'll go along with it. But the world isn't black and white.
No,
It's
far
very,
from it.
and we have more questions than we do answers. But for the people who want answers, they'll rather entertain either delusion, misinformation to fill in those gaps.
Mm.
And that's what they'll do. But not realizing that you're only doing not just self harm to yourself, but to others as well, because you keep precipitating that disbelief and that disillusion, that misinformation, which actually absolves the, intelligence or
State.
American or whatever you have you is involved. That actually is involved.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you, I've wanted to ask you, when you hear the name Richard Blee or Cofer Black, like, what comes to mind? What would you, if you could tell people who've never heard of them before, who those guys are, and what is significant about them? What would
Well,
you say?
let's go with the more common name, and that's Cofer Black. And Cofer Black was actually the director of counterintelligence from 1999 to 2003, I think, or 2002. He was involved with the capture of a notorious terrorist in Africa, North Africa, called Carlos the Jackal, in 1993, I think. And around that same time, while in North Africa, Bin Laden was actually living in the Sudan, Khartoum, and Kofa Black wanted to run an operation where they would capture and rendition him as well as they did with Carlos the Jackal. And there was another CIA agent called Billy Waugh. He's a very legendary officer, and he used to jog right near Bin Laden's house and jog past the security detail, and got back to the Clinton administration and Sandy Berger, the national security advisor,
Mm-hmm.
said, "Hey, we can assassinate this guy," and it never got full approval. Well, fast forward to 2000, 2001, Kofor Black is now the director of CTC, and he is operating an operation called the Plan, which is not much of a name. It's called the Plan, where the target is Bin Laden and to kill him, to collect as much data as much intelligence from the Northern Alliance who are fighting the Taliban in Afghanistan, and create stations around in Afghanistan to get as close as they can with Al Qaeda and collect information. And so they tried doing this, but they couldn't break the inner circle of Al Qaeda. And this was something that Kofor Black wanted to do because the CIA didn't have spies within Al Qaeda. And that was the excuse he gave later to Ray Nowowisky and John Duffy, who wrote the book "The Watchdogs Didn't Bark,"
Dogs didn't bark.
in which in which they interviewed Richard Clarke, and Richard Clarke said that he believed that Kofor Black and the CIA tried to persuade Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi to become informants for the CIA. And that's the reason why they never told the FBI that they were inside the country. Kofor Black actually, whether he signed off on that or not, refuses to talk about it. He's never been interviewed about 9/11, and I don't think he's ever going to be. But for the public to know about Kofor Black, that's what he's mostly known for. Richard Blee is a much more shadowy figure. Richard Blee has a father, and I forgot his first name.
Explain that, Adam. I'll be right back. Keep explaining that. I'm coming right back.
Sure. Do you want me to continue? I sure will. I'll wait till you come back. But yeah, for the people, Richard Blee actually was chief of station of the Bin Laden issue station called Alex Station. And he took over Michael Scheuer's job because Michael Scheuer was a very insular individual. And he created like a sect, like this very cultish group within Alex Station, and they were mostly women. And so they were doting to him. And the CIA didn't like that because they put him there to share information with them and the counterterrorism group about Bin Laden and Al Qaeda, and he was hoarding the information. So they kicked him out. They didn't fire him. They just put him in the library. So, he wasn't fired, but he was just demoted. and then claim Richard Blee. Now, Richard Blee was a much more agency man, so to speak. He went right by the book, and he was actually good friends with George Tenet, and they knew about his father, who's a legend in the the Africa division of the CIA, and he's actually he's on a plaque on the CIA wall. I think like it's the greatest CIA officers, case officers ever. And Richard Blee ran Bin Laden Issue Station from 1999 to 2002, and he became the lead of Jawbreaker, which was an operation to kill Bin Laden in Afghanistan at the time. But Richard Blee is actually more known for withholding information from the FBI about Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi inside the United States, from the FBI and from the State Department, intentionally. They didn't want the FBI to share that information to monitor them because it is the FBI's jurisdiction. The Department of Justice is the lead agency when it comes to federal crimes in the United States, not the CIA. And they were coming to the United States.
Right.
The CIA used the excuse that, because we think the next terrorist attack's in Malaysia, it's not the FBI's jurisdiction. And I interviewed Mark Rossini, and so have you, where he is talking about how the FBI were intentionally misled by the CIA about sharing information, and he worked at Alex Station.
Well, so that's when you see fire versus police in a baseball game or a softball game.
Right.
They don't get along. They don't share stuff. They don't.
Mm-hmm.
They're not simpatico on everything. And Mike and I, we've talked to John Kiriakou a lot about a lot of this, and I think he was surprised how much we knew about it. I think
he was surprised.
Well, maybe not surprised, but like Jesus Christ, these are just two dudes from New Hampshire. I mean, why do they know about this? Why are they, how do they know to ask me about this? And obviously you know about it too, Adam. But it's not this thing that just like happened in a vacuum,
right?
It wasn't like our government conspired, and that's a cartoon version of conspiracy of 9/11, of what happened. People might not understand or think about that there are going to be people in intelligence agencies that are going to run Muslim terrorists or known terrorists or sympathizers to a certain point, like basically to the edge.
Right.
To try and flip them or try and get intelligence on other people, other high value targets that they want to get out of them.
Exactly.
And that happened with 9/11.
Yes. I think generally the public likes to think that the bad guy is like Mr. Burns, and he has a long draconian table that sits like 50 other old men, and they plot the world rubbing their hands. And I'm here to tell you, it's not that simple.
It don't work that way.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way. Now there are corporations like the military industrial complex. You have the fossil fuel industry, the banking industry, the cartels, and then you have like foreign policy advisors, the foreign lobbies of Israel, the United States, of Saudi Arabia. But what they have in common, now they have a lot of differences within each other about how to run the world and govern the world, but they all have one common theme that unites them. The consolidation of power.
Mm-hmm.
All right. As long as it doesn't fall into the hands of the lower middle classes, that's the people, we can control the narrative of most everything around the world. Now, they don't control everything around the world. No. They control the narrative for most of what's going on around the world. And they withhold that information from us by classifying information for the next 30, 40 years. Because it would illuminate them as the suspects of certain things that happened. And if we're talking about like the JFK assassination, everybody and their mother at this point knows the CIA is involved. But how deep are they involved? With 9/11, it'll be the same thing. After all this blows away from disinformation, it'll come out that the CIA was somewhere involved with the withholding of information to allow these attacks. But why? We'll find out in time, but we'd like to see it in our lifetime. That's why we fight for the truth.
We fight. Maxim says, "Great to see Adam on, Cheers to you both. $4.99 super
Thank you.
chat. We appreciate that. Um, yeah, I know you touched on this with Mike and John Gold recently here on the show, but
Hmm.
the LIV golfing tournament that
Hmm.
Emir Trump, I call him the Emir, as we've talked about before. He behaves like an Emir. He wishes
Great.
he wishes he was an Emir, Adam.
He
Quite
wishes.
frankly.
Yeah, he wishes.
I wish I had the money of the Emirs. Quite frankly, I pretend I have the money, but I don't have the money. Okay, call Deutsche Bank. They'll tell you some things. Believe me. But it was it's disgusting. It was disgusting. What happened with LIV and all the people, everyone who died on 9/11, but just specifically people from New Jersey who lost loved ones on 9/11, to see the former president who, when he ran on this and he riled up people who were questioning 9/11 and used Alex Jones for this. You're going to find that Saudi Arabia was involved in a very big way in 9/11. We didn't get to the bottom of it. Saudi Arabia was involved. He says that, runs on it, makes those people who are receptive to that message support him and vote for him and be hopeful that he's going to do something with it. Doesn't do anything with it when he's president, while he's in charge for 48 months. And then now, as a former president over in New Jersey, this golf course hosts the Saudis who are using sports to whitewash what they did.
Right.
The involvement in 9/11, financing it, and it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable to people who know and understand and pay attention. So, I mean, from seeing that, we're not surprised by it, but like from seeing that, what are your thoughts on that, Adam, overall?
I thought it was grotesque, to be honest with you. Trump on the day of 9/11 was on TV, and they were talking about. He was talking about how his building,
These are powerful buildings, Adam. There had to have been something other than the planes to bring them down.
Yeah, he did. I think he said something similar to that.
That's what he said verbatim. I've watched it many times.
Similar to that. But yeah, he was actually, a lot of people tend to forget that he was actually a prominent face on 9/11. He was interviewed by, I think, Channel 9 as well. But nevertheless, he does talk about dancing Arabs, that he's seen Arabs in New Jersey actually celebrating the attacks. Funny thing is that I have a good co-friend researcher, DJ Thermal Detonator, and he was one of the very few people that touched on this.
We know Thermal.
Regarding the New Jersey faction. Oh, there he is. There's a New Jersey faction of the Al Qaeda group that have a long-standing history that goes back to an older Arab organization called the Abu Nidal organization, and the connections with Omar Abdel Rahman in New Jersey.
93.
I won't get into that, but that's a long. Yeah, there's a great connection to it. Nevertheless, when Trump held that tournament, I said, wow, what a long way we've come. Here's a guy who's on 9/11 condemning we need to attack and defend democracy. And then when he's running for president, as you said, with the great intimidator that you are, he basically says, oh, we'll get to the bottom of it. We'll research it. Then when he gets in the office, nothing.
We're gonna find, Adam, that Saudi Arabia was involved in knocking down those buildings.
Right.
And then I've talked, Adam, to family members who met with Donald Trump in the White House, and Trump promised them, "We're going to do this. We're going to go forward, and we're going to hold Saudi Arabia to account."
And
Nothing.
Here we are holding actually a tournament on his golf course.
No, here we are, Trump holding their balls and their golf balls
Right.
at a golf tournament because he's enriching himself. But
there's an old adage saying that it takes years for a reputation to build, but seconds to destroy, and that's exactly what happened with that golfer, Phil
Mickelson.
Thank you, Phil Mickelson.
Yeah, he's a whore. He's a whore for Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, I mean, but he suffered a lot of his sponsors now dropped him.
Good.
Millions overnight when he did it. And I said, was it worth it? Was it worth it? Knowing full well, like the story behind it, because the media reported on it. So he can't feign ignorance.
And you know what? You probably saw this, Adam. Brett Eagleson, whose father died in the World Trade Center
Oh yes,
on
yeah,
9/11. He said, "Oh, these golfers are just trying to feed their family. They're just going to work to feed their family." He's like, "My father went to work in the World Trade Center on 9/11 to feed his family."
yeah.
What are you going to say to that? My father was just trying to feed his family. You
I,
know?
yeah. It's like it shouldn't be surprising to anybody who's well versed in American politics that they'll say anything to get you to vote for them. Anything at this point. And then every 4 years, it seems the American populace gets amnesia and
Mm,
thinks that we'll vote this time, but make it right and make it work for us.
right.
I just it's a I think it's I came up with a phrase once. I said it's actually voting is anti-American, and to do like to actually support people who aren't going to help you in any way possible. You have to question yourself why you're voting for them in the first place. And I
Yeah.
never could understand it. I don't know why.
I mean, you got to admit, Adam, when he was like up there in the primary in 16 with Jeb Bush, he was like, "The World Trade Center came down during your brother's reign. That's not safe." That was incredible. That was fun. That was entertaining. I was charged up during that. I won't lie about it.
I have to admit, Eric, when he said that when Hillary Clinton was talking, and he looked at her, he walked away. He goes, "Yeah, because you'd be in jail." I said, "Wow,
Yeah,
I
she's
never
like,
saw that in the primary, man. Wow, holy
it's so
cow!"
good. Someone like Donald Trump isn't in charge of law enforcement in our country. He's like, because you'd be in jail.
Yeah,
You know, no, it was everything. No, he's really good with that messaging, but the actions when the guy had power, when the guy could do, when you have the bully pulpit, whatever you want to say about what a president is or what a presidency is, and when he had his Twitter during most of his presidency. You have millions of people paying attention to you,
mm,
hanging on your every word. You can literally control news cycles. Crickets.
sure, sure.
Nothing. 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 You
No,
know?
and look, it's something else because with Trump was yeah, he's a narcissist. Yeah, he's a sleazebag, and yeah, he's a corporatist. But he wasn't part of the establishment. That's the reason why they came out very aggressive toward him. The media did,
Oh,
even from the conservatives.
they
But
fucking
what
hate it. They hate
was
him.
yeah, what he could they I never saw saying I never yeah I lived under the Reagan administration. I thought he was the most hated. But this guy, wow, he's the most hated president I've ever seen.
He,
Now, at the same time, what he did was took advantage of that. So what the
hmm,
left didn't realize was instead of getting to those people who fell victim to Trump and saying, listen, you know, we should work together and try to create a new environment, a new government, a new system, and we should work together. No, what they did was they alienated them, basically furthering the political divide. And in return, you created a fanatic group far more fanatic than Trump. So now you got people like, Matt Gates, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tom Cotton, these like real fanatics. Like these people are like worshiping I mean, yesterday they had CPAC and a conference there. So they
yeah.
got this guy in a jail cell. And I read a story
I,
about him.
I
Was
saw Marjorie Taylor Greene bowing down.
yeah, right. They were about, and they were praying to this guy. Marjorie Taylor Greene she walked into the jail
It's
cell,
incredible.
and she bent down
It's
and
incredible.
she started praying to him and praying with him. I'm like, what the hell's going on here?
Did you see, Adam? I just hung out with Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yes, I saw that.
I met her. You know, and look, I know what she is. I get it.
Yeah,
She's so much fun though. God does she just trigger everybody? Everybody hates her. I think we look at our political system in a very similar light. That it's just all bought and paid for kabuki theater. So you can appreciate the theatrics of Marjorie Taylor Greene and how she pisses off the Democratic Party and the left and the other side. But
yes,
it,
it's I know I get where you're coming from, Eric. I get where you're coming from because I too sometimes look at the sun knowing full well that it's going to melt my cornea. But all right, and listen, I'll admit, I'll go to her channel and watch her speak.
Oh,
I'll go
she's
to
fun.
the channel, and
She's
I'm like,
she's fun.
I'm like, wow.
She's fun.
Yeah, no, I think not only is it fun, it's horrifying at the same time, but I think it's just a grandiose, like this over exaggeration of the
Mm.
persona that we're
Hmm.
put into. Like, wow, are they
Yeah.
really this way?
Right.
Like, it's
Right.
astonishing.
Hmm.
But when like you actually met these people, now that's a little bit different than I've never met a politician in my life. But when you meet these people, they may put on an act and may seem even nicer in public. But at the same time, when they're in front of that TV set, when they're in front of constituents, it's a whole other ballgame. And that's where the real horror begins. Yeah, on TV and stuff, it's funny and it's amazing to look at. It's just surreal. It's a circus.
It is.
Behind those scenes is where the real horror begins, because these people make decisions based on us.
Yeah. Well, they play to the most extremes of their constituents because the extremes are the loudest and the ones who get noticed and the
Right.
ones who show up and knock on doors and create viral videos. And but I did see that I saw Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's the same outfit that I when I met her, she was wearing, and it was like a mock-up of a political prisoner from J6
Ah,
being in a cage. I think that's what you're referencing. And
yes,
Marjorie Taylor Greene
yes.
like went in and prayed at it. It's incredible.
I can't believe it.
It's
I
fucking
mean, it's
incredible.
astonishing to look at. And I sometimes like I'll watch it because I'm like that type. I like to suffer and
Mm.
enjoy my suffering like Hellraiser. So I'll go in. So I'll watch Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'll watch like CPAC, but I'll also watch the fanatics of the left. Like
Well,
I'll watch like
you'll
real.
watch AOC pretend to get arrested.
What's that?
You'll watch AOC pretending to get arrested.
I can't, oh, can you believe that? I mean, God,
Yeah.
was it Rashid Tlaib or Ilhan Omar? They made believe they were handcuffed, and there's these videos that show they're like, there's no handcuffs on them. So,
they, they put their hands behind them like they're Martin Luther King or something protesting civil rights.
They're great influential civil leaders. Meanwhile, these are corporatists.
These are actors.
Yes, exactly.
That's what I say to people. You are getting angry about actors. Like imagine getting angry about your favorite Star Wars actors and actresses playing their role.
Imagine being pissed off at Nicolas Cage. Well, you would have a right because he made a lot of bad films, but I'm just saying,
True.
in general, like imagine being pissed off at Nicolas Cage. Why? I mean, the vitriol.
Well, that's it. And my buddy who is super MAGA, he says, "Could you imagine waking up every day being angry about Donald Trump?" And I'm like, "Dude, great point.
Great point. Why? Really? If he directs your life like that, well, he did it
Right.
right.
You deserve the state you're in. If
Exactly.
you give him, if you're not angry about who is the Vegas Zionist ghoul who died, who funded Trump? His wife's
Vegas.
his wife's alive. He died. He like funded the whole embassy move. I can't even think of his fucking name right now.
Yeah, man, that's damn it.
I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna be that guy.
Yeah, cheat. Usually, when you forget names, you remember the names at a time when you're not thinking about them.
Yeah.
That always happens.
Oh, Adelson.
Yes, Sheldon Adelson.
Sheldon Adelson. Jesus Christ, I fucking forgot. He's been dead. The ghoul's been dead a couple years, but like, dude, learn about Sheldon Adelson. Learn about his influence. Learn about where his money's going. Learn about what he wants, what he's all about, who he is. That's that's who Donald Trump is.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And you know what, Eric? One thing I like to point out to people is that there is a noticeable divide in politics when it comes to domestic issues. For example, healthcare. There's a big debate in the House and the Senate about how much money should be appropriated to the American public. What state should get this amount of portion? Should Idaho get more than Florida, whatever? But when it comes to the bigger issues, when it comes to war, when it comes to Israel, when it comes to Saudi Arabia, when it comes to Egypt, these are the three main countries that got our money. When it comes to like the Yemen conflict or Ukraine,
Pakistan too.
there is no divide in politics. There is no left and right. And these bills are overwhelmingly passed. Now, there may be tidbits of arguments about the definitions of said bill, but one thing is for certain, everybody in the House and Senate will act in accordance and sign that bill. For example, when Nancy Pelosi went to visit Taiwan last week, you know who backed her? Mitch McConnell and the Republicans. Okay? That should tell you right there that there is no difference ultimately when it comes to the bigger issues that affect everybody. There is no left and right. There is no Democrat, Republican. They're not fighting in the House and Senate like we do in the streets, right? But there is a divide when it comes to issues when it involves us: Social Security, healthcare, education, etc. Only domestic issues. But on the bigger, grander issues, that's much more important, and something that I wish the libertarian issue would take advantage of, and they should, is that to get those fence sitters, basically say, hey, this is who we're fighting against.
Yeah. I'm with you, man. And one issue that I hate labels and I hate parties and shit, but I would like Medicare for all Americans.
Yes.
I would like that as just a baseline of being born here and being an American citizen. I would like that. Let's do it. Let's make it a baseline as part of our standard of living here in the United States. Since 9/11, we've spent how many trillions of dollars to murder people and eviscerate people 8,000 miles away in the Middle East? Untold trillions. What would it cost to just establish a national healthcare system in our country and just make it part of our deal?
Do you know that it is a great point that you raised? I want to follow up on that. Do you know that we spent 3.1 trillion, and Scott Horton reported on this in his book, Fool's Errand. 3.1 trillion went to Afghanistan alone, just $3 trillion, all right, for 20 years of a war that we gave up on, right? We left. We made no progress. Taliban took over the country. That means it was a failure, right? But yet, at the same time, there'll be a huge fight for years about how much money should be appropriated to every man, woman, and child in this country when it comes to healthcare.
Yeah.
And not only that, we'll privatize it on top of it. That's what
hell yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for God's sakes, and he's worshipped like a celebrity. But this is the hypocrisy of politics for you. Like you brought up before about people hating Donald Trump, but those same people will claim that Obama was a great guy. Meanwhile, Obama, in many respects, was worse than Trump.
Well, I love Adam, the ghouls who say he was a secret Muslim. I'm like, dude, no one's killed more Muslims than Barack Obama.
Right, for example, that's a great point.
Give me a fucking break, man. He's murdered so many Muslim children in Pakistan, it would make your head spin.
For God's sakes. I mean, you want to talk about civil rights for the Islamic community. He wasn't one of them. You can say the Strom Thurmond of Middle East.
Secret Muslim, my fucking ass, dude.
Yeah.
But,
even the Bush administration officials, some of them, they were interviewed by Bob Woodward. And basically, they came out and said that they were jealous of Obama because he got authorized drone strikes. The Bush administration did not. And he ended up expanding the drone strike program. 7 Arab countries were involved with that program.
7. Yep. 7. Yeah,
we'll never know the death count.
It's unbelievable. And I'm not a socialist. I just other civilized countries have healthcare as part of their deal, part of their country. Britain has it, Canada has it, the Nordic countries have it. It's not like controversial where they don't fight with each other over it.
How about this? Yeah, how about this for controversy, Eric? And I think this would let me see if I could. I'll get your opinion on it and the people in the room. How about this? At the end of the year, you get a pie chart when it comes to taxes. On this pie chart, you dedicate how much money. Let's say you're giving $10,000 for the year, right? So you get to dictate how much money goes into, say, healthcare, Social Security, Pentagon, teaching, education, housing department, homeless. Like you have a pie chart to dedicate every penny of your dollar to go into whatever chart you think needs to be addressed. Well, that's taxation without representation.
Yeah. Right.
That makes a lot more sense because you know where your money's going. And at the end of the year, right, after getting all these charts from the Americans, the citizenry, they put all the money in whatever the chart. And at the end, the government sends you back about the results of where that money went to and how much went to it. Now, that would be a great idea.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me just challenge this. Most Canadians complain about their health care that I know. Well, my father was from Canada, and I have hundreds of cousins in Canada right now. It's got its problems. It's got issues. They don't go fucking bankrupt for a medical emergency. I've asked them about this. I want to know about it. I want to hear what their take is. Yeah, every healthcare system has issues, but they're not worrying about going bankrupt and losing their house and losing their savings and losing a college fund for a child. Like when a medical emergency happens here, Adam, in America, people do GoFundMe's, and the Canadians are like they just can't even fathom that. So, let me just put it to you that way,
Yeah, I can't fathom the fact that we have a corporatized medical care industry where, I mean, if you have to pay out of pocket 15 grand, for example, to go to a hospital in order to be covered in other areas, well, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, all right, let's just say that the medical industry in Canada is inferior compared to the United States. But the bigger picture is they have healthcare.
Right.
Free. It's paid into by the taxpayers.
It's part of their deal. It's part of the deal.
Right. I would pay gladly into that.
Think about how much of our income that we pay federally for taxes, man. Sure. The fuck do we get out of it? We murder people 8,000 miles away with drones.
Exactly right. Oh, that's a great point. Look,
pisses me off.
If you're not complaining about what's happening because you voted for a certain president, well, then you have no right to complain when other countries are criticizing us about how we spend our money.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just I think this could be something, it could be great fusion, and if we could somehow convince the America First people that healthcare is America First policy, taking care of our own country is America First, not fucking subsidizing genocide in Yemen for Saudi Arabia and not subsidizing occupation of the Palestinians for Israel is not America First.
Right. Exactly.
You have to find a way to do that, but it keeps me going and it keeps me outraged,
Right, and you should be, because you're a moral individual. I mean, you know what's going on, and you see it plain as day.
Okay.
But we need other people to get on the same page in order to make that difference, right? Just me and you, and the rest of others that we know, Ryan Dawson, Reed Coverdale, others. I would say we're a small group, but we need other people to be able to say, "Hey, listen, we're not different from you." Now, when it comes to politics, yeah, we got to talk about the certain issues that affect all of us, not some of us.
Right.
And that's how you get everybody on board. And I think the libertarian movement, I'm not part of it, but I think they have a golden opportunity right now to run on Ron Paul's precepts of anti-war.
That's where I'm at, man. And that's, I'm not a member of a party. I know, Adam, I've heard you talk about it. I'm with you, man. I hate parties. Political parties are like gangs. They're mafias. They're rackets. They have their own interests. But I've voted for libertarians in the past, and I think that, if it's going to be Biden and Trump again, man, this has to be a ripe opportunity to get someone up there on that stage nationally who can talk about this stuff and bring light to it and point out how bankrupt and horrible the two main parties are. Mike asked Ron Paul when we had him on, he's like, what do you think about third parties? Ron Paul's like, I'd like there to be two parties in America. We don't have we have the war party. We have the Pentagon in charge of everything and running everything. So I think we have a really good opportunity here. And we're libertarians. I'm with them on so much, man. I'm with them on a lot of stuff. But they're just some of them are so extreme and so rigid. and just like just they don't even want to consider someone else's point of view or perspective on something, and you lose a lot of people. I think, man, we got to do coalition building here, man. We all want truth. We all want what's best for the United States. We all want to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars. I think we have a real opportunity to do something here, and that's part of why I'm doing what I'm doing, and bringing everyone I know in my network together and connecting them, and don't write somebody off because you disagree with them on a couple of things. Oh Jesus, boo-hoo, man. You're going to disagree with people on stuff. That's life. No one's going to be a purist. If you want them to be a purist, like you think you're a purist, they think they're a purist. That's just not reality. We have to connect on the big picture stuff, and I think that's where we can really reach a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I push the issue, and it's ad nauseum now for me that the libertarian movement, if they want to right now, could take full advantage of this between now and 2024 when the presidential race comes up, is that you can now grab people from the fence who are sick and tired of this two-party system and no benefit and no movement whatsoever to the betterment of the people, and run on the one issue that could combine the libertarian movement together. Anti-war. Because there are two wars being promoted right now from the left and right. Ukraine from the left, China and Iran from the right. So you can grab everybody and say, hey, listen, we want to make real change. Yeah, we'll talk about the domestic issues, that divisive issues that the libertarian movement that seem to be squibbling online. But hey, we can all agree that anti-war is the message that we need to run on. And I will tell you right now, I bet you, if everybody, you, Reed, Dave Smith, Tom Woods could get together and run on that precept and grab other people from different states living, you'll grab the majority of them, and they'll agree with you. I think they can. It just needs to get that message spread.
We can get a lot of people, and we all hate the murder that's in the exportation of death and devastation and destruction that's been done in our name. 9/11 happened. I was a freshman in high school, and I saw all these guys running to sign up to go fight and sign up for turn into Iraq very quickly after that. And I'm still upset about that. I haven't forgotten that. I have friends who are veterans of Iraq who are permanently damaged for the rest of their lives from what happened to them. They signed up. I get that. They went over there and they did it. My brother and I, we looked at it. We were like, this is bullshit, man. It's 9/11 in Iraq, man. It's not. Saddam Hussein did not do 9/11.
Right.
But they sold that to my generation. And I'm still angry about it. And I'm going to be angry about it until I die. And I'm going to talk about it as long as I can. I'm going to raise issues. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to make it an issue. I'm going to be vocal about it. And I'm fucking pissed off about it, man. I still am pissed off about it. Sure. Iraq was what, 03 when we March of 03?
2003.
Yeah, I'm still fucking mad about it, man. It ruined so many people's lives, not to mention a million people plus who were murdered in Iraq, civilians. Whatever name you put on it, or whatever you're going to put on it, or how you're going to try to sanitize it, it was just awful. So we have to keep talking about it, and that's why I do what I do, man. I remember what happened in the Jackman. We're not going to shut up about it. We're not going to shut up about it. The fallout, we're still feeling the fallout from it, and the 9/11 families are feeling the fallout. They got to look at Trump with all the Saudis at his golf course, only 70 miles away from the World Trade Center where it happened on 9/11. So we're not going to stop talking about it, and we're going to keep going. We're going to keep pushing, and there is a large coalition of people who feel the way that we do, Adam.
That's right.
And they're tired of it. We don't give a shit about Democrat, Republican, whatever you want to call yourself. We believe in truth, and we are legitimately raging against the machine, and we're going to keep doing it.
It's the one thing that binds us all together, and that is that we are fed up with the system that has given us nothing more than crumbs on the floor and genocide and debasement and a system of authoritarianism and totalitarianism, and basically sold the lies of the world of the last 21st century. I'll just keep it recent, um, where you had more wars under the name of democracy than all the countries combined of different competing theories of why they went to war. And if this is not enough for you, well, then I'd say you're a liar. Because if you're not for the betterment of the human race, well, then you can't say that you're an empathetic individual and that you care about um, your small clique of people that you know, that you only care. Well, just worry about you and yourself, and don't worry. No, uh, even though that I have a disparaging view about the world, I'm a pessimist. But I gotta have faith, right? To know that there are other people who are really just fed up with the system and want real change, but they don't know how to do it. So what we need to do is basically your platform and other platforms like you to spread that message of like the Iraq War or 9/11 or 93 or JFK and RFK. Doesn't matter. These are all historical events that we've never been told the truth for, and that we need to know the truth. And while at the same time, we need to get enough people behind us to force a change.
That's it, man. We just couldn't have said it better. We're just gonna keep breathing life into this, and like I told you before we went on air, man. I you dug up a phone call from one of the people on flight 93 that crashed in Shanksville. You dug up the recording of that call and put it out there. And this is the shit that I remember, man. When I was a kid, I was a freshman in high school, and this is the shit they used, the propaganda that was used to sell us on the war on terror. We have to go kill them. We got to stop them. We got to send we got to send our boys over there. We're fighting the good fight. And I just can't forget about it. I won't forget about it.
Right.
And I know you won't either, Adam. I know that it grabs you by your core and what you believe and how you feel and what you know to be true. And I just feel like we owe it to everybody, man, to just keep going.
If you feel, if for those who are dissatisfied, say, this is too much for me. It's too big. I don't make a difference. Well, that's not true. You can make a difference. Look, 3 years ago, for example, I'll use myself as an example. 3 years ago, I didn't have a YouTube station. I didn't have a viral media, and all it took, and I was studying geopolitics and the state and CIA and all this stuff, and all it took was my niece to come into my room and say, "Oh, what are you going to do with all this stuff?" And kids say the damnedest things, and I had no answer. I really didn't. I said, "What am I doing?" And after 12 years, you think, "Oh, I know what I'm just saying and know what I'm learning." Well, here's a 12-year-old who walks in my room and says something so profound that I didn't even have an answer for. And right from that week, I created a YouTube channel, and I said, "I'm not going to make a difference. I'm not going to reach anybody. Even 10 people." Well, 3 years later, I got 2,000 people, and to me, to others that may not seem big, but 2,000 people are watching what you have to say, listening to you. And yes, I feel it's a moral duty, just like you feel, Eric. That's the reason why you made your show. You feel a moral duty to not just lead the people astray with a fanatical story or two and make, triple your audience and make good money from it. You want to impart information, real information to a people where they can act on the information, real information. And this is how you build a movement of educated people that can make the change that the state is so afraid of. Yeah, that's
Right.
why they keep us divided, whether it's through religion or racism, sexism, politics, it's working. But I have a feeling that if we can get the right movement, libertarians, and get that persuasion going about, hey, listen, we're not being told the truth about mainly everything. And we're running on the anti-war movement. Well, you can get people to jump. Hey, we're for that. We don't want to go to war in Yemen. We don't want Gaza being bombed every night. We don't want to go to war with China. Hey, listen, we'll go with this group. They know what they're talking about. You just got to get the right messenger. That's it. We can reach it.
And if we just keep speaking truthfully and honestly and from the heart, that's it, man. You can't really beat that. You can't beat that.
That's right.
It's awesome.
People are suckers for the truth in the end. Even though they may believe in the most more fanatical of things and the most irrational beliefs, but in the end, when they're alone, they want to know something rather than believe.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Well, we just hit an hour. So, folks, I don't think we've announced it yet, but Adam and Reed Coverdale and I, we are going to Washington, D.C. in September to see Ron Paul. We're going to meet in real life. It's going to be epic. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I can't wait, and it's very kind of you guys to invite me.
Well, it's going to be awesome. We'll do some videos. We'll do some stuff. We'll put out some stuff. But before we depart here, Adam, but after we depart, hang on. I'll talk to you after. But tell people where they can find you and support your work.
Yeah. Hey. Again, Eric, thank you very much for speaking with me and talking with you. And on Twitter, I'm _ Adam Fitzgerald. But if you Google my name, Adam Fitzgerald, 9/11. I come right up. I'm everywhere. I'm on Medium. I'm on YouTube. I just use my real name, and it's very easy to find me. But on Twitter, it's _ Adam Fitzgerald. Awesome. And if you go to my Twitter account, I have on a pinned tweet all the links to my sites and sites of DJ Deadner, who I consider a great researcher in his own right. So, yeah, you can find all of my information there.
It's awesome. I like to think there's an Adam on every block around the world, all shapes and sizes.
Oh, good Lord. Well, there wouldn't be much room. I'm 6'10", so I mean,
Adam's a big boy, and I'm looking. Reed and I are like, God, how are we going to fit Adam in the car? He's 6'10".
Good Lord,
he's a Harlem Globetrotter. Adam, thanks for taking the time, man. This was fun.
Oh, it's great.
Everybody, check him out, man. He's doing the research. He spends untold hours digging this stuff out and really breadcrumbing and helping the rest of us understand what's going on with all these important issues. Thanks for tuning in. And if you like Jackman Radio, support the channel. Just go to patreon.com/Jackman Radio, $5, $10 a month. Venmo, Senator Jackman 86. Send me a tip or support us on there. Subscribe to the channel. Tell all your friends. So much more good stuff coming. We thank you all very much. And I hope you have a great weekend. Stay cool. Stay safe. Much love.